Hello, everyone. We're just starting. And okay, so what are we here for today? We're here in this talk to talk about microinteractions and see how we can utilize them to provide outstanding user experiences in the products that we build. My name is Yonatan Doron, and as you've realized, I assume microinteractions are something that is very close to me, and I'm going to show you some things that I learned about microinteractions in time. A little bit about me. I'm a front-end craftsman at client side, which is a front-end consulting and development studio. And we provide services to all kinds of companies all over the world, but also in Israel, some unicorn companies, over a $1 billion valuation, and some other startups. I also co-founded one of the larger developer communities here in Israel called Hodesh Dev, and that used to meet a lot prior to the whole COVID-19 situation. And now we're mainly online. We gather and we do all kinds of stuff. And I also write and speak about mainly microinteractions and frontend. So simply put, a microinteraction is a single-use visual cue that draws the user attention to a change in the user's in the application state or status. And of course, there are examples from the physical world and the digital world, and we're going to elaborate about that. And take this cattle, for example. Not sure everyone has such a sophisticated or a cool-looking cattle like this. I personally don't. But it's a very clear example from the physical world to what a microinteraction is, and this entire kettle in itself is a whole microinteraction. It has one use, to boil the water, and there is like this unwritten contract between us and the kettle, right, that we know as users that once we will click the button in the kettle, it will provide us with the feedback that it received our request, and it is now heating the water. And all this will be done only by showing us that the light is now on, and this is the indication for us, the users, that we got what we wanted. And of course, from the more digital world, not such a concrete example, but you can see what's going on here. It's just a card that invites the user to interact with. And once the user interacts with this card, you can see there is this pleasant transition, both in opacity and in rotation. And it's kind of like a neat experiment that I like, a small experiment to show a pleasant side of digital microinteractions. So I like experimenting, and specifically with all that involves microinteractions. I like to reverse engineer them and find all kinds of cool microinteractions and online and in applications. And some of my experiments I share more. I write articles, and we're going to prospect some of them. So this is what you can see in front of you is some kind of a futuristic loader, you may call it, that might be a good fit for a splash screen or some kind of loading screen in your application. And when you stare at it, there is like this unwritten contract between the users and this microinteraction. Users, all of us, we stare at these loading animations that is essentially composed of just rotating lines and flickering dots. And we stare at them, and it's this unwritten contract that we know that we can be calm and relaxed and wait for what is about to come, that we requested, the screen, the data. Another experiment that is actually found in a Facebook application. One day I opened my Facebook mobile app, and I checked it out, and it's all idle, except for this sparkling morphing stars on a specific action in the taskbar. And of course, it immediately drew my attention to check out what is this new action. And I think this is also one of the examples of microinteractions that I reversed engineered and wrote a specific article about it, and because it really caught my attention. And not going to elaborate a whole much about it in this talk, but this is one way of how to do proper feature discovery and user experience. This is one action that the designers of the application wanted certain user or certain groups of users to engage with, or decided it is important for these users to engage with, maybe based on feedback. And this is why they highlighted it in the taskbar, and that's about it. And of course, this more common micro-interaction of a microphone with sound waves that I've played around with. When you can see that has some clear indication to what is going on in a video player or a media player, you see the sound waves outside, you know that the sound is currently playing, and when you click it, there is this transition in state, and you know that now the audio is muted. And we're going to talk further about transitions and what role they play. Okay, Yonatan, that's amazing. You're talking about a whole kind of examples and stuff, but what do I do with it? How do I know how to design, or how do I know how to implement microinteractions? So with time, I came up with what I believe are maybe the fundamentals or the building blocks for composing microinteractions. First, and maybe pretty much the most important, is feedback, and not feedback from the user to the system, rather from the system to the user, due to some kind of trigger or a user trigger or user event, and like this material UI material loader spinner that shows us that we are now waiting for something that we asked to happen. The second thing you saw maybe in a previous example is the transitions, but this building block means that these transitions need to have some kind of meaning and to show us the transition between states, and also show us what's the current state in that current area of the application with a microinteraction. And of course, this is something that I'm going to elaborate more about now. Microinteractions are some kind of an opportunity for us front-end developers and for designers and product people to introduce some kind of a personal experience, humor even, and also our brand identity, to mold it inside the microinteractions that we provide in the applications that we build. And so it would be probably a bit hard, because usually when I ask about this area, I try to ask the crowd, but I'm presenting, and it would be a bit hard to see the chat. So I'm just going to go through these examples without you guessing which one they are. And this is the Twitter heart, and it's a very common microinteraction. At first, it's gray, and when you interact with it, right, you click it, what happens? This heart becomes filled with love and joy and redness, and it even scales up and bursts all these particles and colors all over. Such a small thing, but can you imagine Twitter without this Twitter heart? It would be hard, right? This is an essential part of Twitter. Same goes for Medium. This is a reverse engineered example that I built based on the Medium clap, the famous Medium clap. It's not 100% the same, but it gets through the idea. And of course, a very essential part of Medium. You can't imagine Medium without the clap. It's the currency for Medium. This is how people interact and reward good content. And of course, the thumbs up that became famous for symbolizing Facebook. And all these three microinteractions, they actually have something in common that is makes them elevated even more than other microinteractions. And this is a whole section of microinteractions that is called signature moments. We're going to talk about it in a second. What's common for them? They're instantly recognizable, right? You immediately saw them, you know that's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's Medium, etc. And as we discussed, they are a natural part of the app, of the application. You can't imagine the app without them. And they also represent some kind of international and well-known brand, regardless of where you are from in the world or what language you speak, you immediately recognize that's Facebook, that's Twitter. And these are the signature moments, or the defining moments in an application. And now we're going to go for a short ride for a live code session. I'll see how it works. And I built this small example to show you what building a microinteraction can look like. I chose to implement it in Vue, although you can choose to implement it in whichever framework or language you want, JavaScript, Angular, React, whatever you prefer. So I'm going just to do a deep dive on it very fast. So every view, the view is component-driven framework. And you can see this is a single file component.view. It's composed of a template, and template tag, script tag, and a style tag. And of course, the corresponding HTML for the template, and all our logic would be stored in the script tag. And of course, the style and the colors and everything, animations, would be in the style tag. So what did I do here in this component? Essentially, I have this dots array, object array, and I iterate over each dot. And I dynamically give them classes, unique classes, and also unique keys. This is just a quick remark. In Vue.js, when you give a unique key to an element, it really helps the change detection mechanism behave properly in Vue.js. And what magic happens in this microinteraction? First of all, when you stare at it, you just see 3 dots. So what's going on here? These 3 dots are going to get the bouncy animation. And all they're going to do is go 10 pixels up and down in an interval with a certain delay. And now you'll see the magic that will happen right about now. Okay, so this is it. We made it. We built our first microinteraction. And as you can see, Yonatan Doron is typing. And we can wait to see what he is writing. And what's so amazing about it, right? It's just 3 gray dots that go up and down. But for those of us who use Facebook on a daily basis, you look at this microinteraction and you think, imagine yourself in some kind of situation, whether it be a girl or a boy you want to date, and you just ask them out in Facebook, or some kind of very important question you ask someone in your life, and you're waiting for them to, you staring at them typing with these 3 dots going up and down, and your heart is racing, right? And this is the way you see this microinteraction. This is how it makes you feel because you are so familiar with it. And just kind of a small example of what microinteractions can do in our lives and what parts they serve. So, I think we have some kind of an opportunity here as front-end developers, as web developers, with everything that regards microinteractions, even in our day jobs or our freelancing jobs. And I'm going to discuss it with you now. I believe there is some kind of UX void, that's my definition for it, that exists, I think, in pretty much most of companies, regardless of their size. The UX void is due to the fact that many times the UX designer is often outsourced, or comes for 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And even if they're full-time, it's not their specialty. They're not experts in interaction design. So therefore, this void can be filled, or some of it can be filled with you front-end developers, with you being more aware of microinteractions and know how to introduce them and discuss them with your UX designer and with your team to make better experiences in the apps that you build. So it's relevant for companies and startups of all sizes. And I think it's time for us developers to step up and try to be more involved and know this aspect of user experience better. I think it will also improve us as developers. And to help you, this is like a whole theory or a whole subject, and it would be a bit hard. And I want to give you something practical to take with you. So I wrote this article, which I call it my 10 microinteraction commandments, or my 10 microinteraction essential tips. And I'm going to share a few with you right now from this article. So microinteractions have to be functional. They have, we talked about it like in feedback, and we'll see an example. This is a button from Audi UI blog, from the Audi design system. And as you can see, when you click the button, it immediately conveys feedback to you, and it fits its functional purpose as a button. Longevity. Longevity is a question that you need to ask yourself when designing or when implementing a microinteraction. Will the microinteraction that you introduce to the system survive the test of time? Will it still be joyful or not daunting for the user to use in the second, the third, the fourth, the nth time they use it. This example is what I think is a good example of what longevity is when longevity is taken into consideration. And you can see this example of closing and opening a menu with this hamburger to X icon and back. And I believe you can get the idea of why this can be a better fit than some kind of explosions and particles all over when all the user wants to do is just open and close a menu. And third, very important point is to remember that in the end of the day, we're building products for humans. Maybe at some point in life it will change, but currently we are still building products to humans, and we need to speak our language, the language that we understand. And even from the the more basic aspects of language, like facial expressions, to even more task specific, like a login, for example, which you can see in this right here. So you can see how Chris Goldsby, the designer that designed this funny bear, take an experience that can potentially be very daunting and stressful, like a login. It's not an exciting experience, right, logging into apps. But see this bear with his eyes glaring up when you write your email, and when you are about to finish writing your email, his eyes even glare more. And when you start writing your password, he covers his eyes. So it's like a very funny, humoristic way and fun way to help you go through some kind of experience in a user interface. And I think that's a very clear example of how we can speak human in our apps, in the apps that we build. So I promised you 10, but I showed you only 3. If you want to read more and get all the 10 tips, you are more than welcome to check out my article. It's called Microinteractions 101, Essential Tips for Powerful Microinteractions. And also, you're welcome to scan it, the barcode. And I also will tweet it in my Twitter at Joe Doron by the end of this talk. If there's one thing I think you should definitely take away with you from this talk, maybe it's time to focus now. And microinteractions can really be those things that can take a product that your users tolerate or are okay with using to a product that they fall in love with, that they want to spend more time with. And I really agree with this sentence by Charles Ames, which was a famous furniture designer. And I try to always ponder on this sentence when I'm designing or building products. I really think that the details are not just the details, right? The details, they make the experience. They make what we are using in every aspect of our lives. Thank you very much. I was Yonatan Doron, and you're welcome to ask any kind of questions right now. So we'll see if there is questions. Okay, if there are no questions, then I guess we can wrap it up. As I promised, I will now tweet the article and also share it in the chat. Thank you, everyone.